What do I remember most about my childhood? Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, if you want to know. That's great.
A rivalry so fierce it turned a racetrack into a battlefield, and a confession so raw it rewrote a legend's final days. Welcome to Hollywood's latest roller coaster of heartbreak and redemption. Steve McQueen and James Garner, two icons whose paths collided in a storm of jealousy and genius, are back in the spotlight, not just for their cinematic triumphs, but for a tale of rage, regret, and a friendship shattered beyond repair. Buckle up, because this isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a front-row seat to a saga that's equal parts tragic and electrifying. We're diving into McQueen's gritty beginnings, Garner's quiet resilience, and the moment that changed everything between them, all while peeling back layers of their lives that still captivate us today. Let's start with Steve McQueen, a man forged in chaos. Born in 1930 in Beech Grove, Indiana, he didn't just face hardship, he was molded by it. His father, a stunt pilot, vanished when Steve was 6 months old, leaving his mother, Julia, drowning in her own struggles with alcohol. By 3, he was shipped off to his grandparents in Missouri, where his great-uncle Claude became the closest thing he'd ever have to a dad. Claude gifted him a red tricycle at 4, igniting a lifelong obsession with speed. Hook number 1. Imagine that little boy racing toward a destiny he couldn't yet see. Life was sweet for a moment, but stability, that was a mirage. At 8, Julia yanked him back to Indianapolis with a new husband, who turned out to be a nightmare, beating Steve until he fled at 9, surviving on the streets, stealing, and running with gangs. Each escape attempt ended with his mother dragging him back to more stepfathers, more violence, until, at 14, he stared down his latest abuser after a brutal shove downstairs and warned, "Touch me again, and I'll kill you." That fire? It never dimmed. Meanwhile, James Garner's story was brewing in Norman, Oklahoma, born in 1928 to a world just as unforgiving. His mother, Mildred, died when he was 4 from a botched abortion, leaving him and his brothers with a father, Weldon, too lost in booze to hold it together. Then came Wilma, a stepmother who didn't just discipline, she tormented, forcing James into dresses to crush his spirit. Hook number 2. Can you feel the scars that shaped a man who'd one day charm millions? By 14, his father ditched Wilma, but James was already on his own, dropping out at 16 to scrape by with odd jobs. Toughness wasn't a choice. It was survival. The Merchant Marines didn't stick. Seasickness driving him back to Oklahoma, but the Korean War called next, drafting him into 14 months of hell. 2 Purple Hearts later, he returned a different man, stumbling into acting not by dream, but by chance. A friend's nudge in 1954 landed him watching Henry Fonda on Broadway, a quiet masterclass that lit his path. McQueen's rebellion took a wilder route. After reform school at 14, where he earned respect and found order, he bounced through jobs: lumberjack, oil rig worker, even towel boy in a brothel. Arrested in the South, he spent 30 days on a chain gang. Hook number 3. Think he'd let that break him? Nope. At 17, the Marines tamed his chaos, turning a kid who went AWOL 7 times into a hero who dove into icy Arctic waters to save 5 men. Discharged honorably, he drifted until acting found him in 1952 at New York's neighborhood playhouse. No polish, just raw instinct. His breakout, The Blob, in 1958. 28 years old, playing a teen, gripping audiences in a $110,000 flick that raked in $4 million. He took a flat $3,000 over profit shares, a regret that stung for years, but it launched him. Wanted, dead or alive, cemented his name. 3 gritty years sharpening a star who'd soon steal every scene. Garner's rise was steadier, but no less magnetic. Maverick in 1957 flipped the Western script. Brett Maverick wasn't a gunslinger, but a sly gambler outsmarting foes with charm. Audiences ate it up, the show outrating giants like Ed Sullivan. Hook number 4. Who doesn't love a hero who wins with brains over bullets? Then came The Great Escape in 1963, where he and McQueen collided. Garner played Hendley, the cunning scrounger, to McQueen's reckless, cooler King Hiltz. On-screen, they were a dream team. Off-screen, a powder keg. McQueen's jealousy erupted. He tweaked scripts, counted lines, even pushed for that iconic motorcycle chase. Stuntman Bud Eakins jumped, but Steve let the myth ride. Garner, ever diplomatic, grew weary of the antics, once calling McQueen a poser, chasing charisma over craft. The real bombshell? Their 1966 clash over a racing movie role Garner nabbed, the one McQueen craved most. Rage consumed McQueen. He vowed revenge, and their bond shattered. He never watched Garner's film until his final days, battling cancer in 1980. Behind the camera, McQueen's insecurities ran deeper than his cool, composed image. He was haunted by jealousy, convinced that Garner had an affair with his wife, Niley Adams, a suspicion entirely unfounded but powerful enough to stoke the flames of their rivalry. McQueen, for all his charisma, struggled with a self-destructive need for control. His paranoia, combined with a volatile temper, made his personal life a battlefield. Unlike McQueen, Garner lived a different reality. He was devoted to his wife, Lois Clark, and remained a man of quiet confidence, never needing to prove himself through reckless behavior. But while McQueen envied Garner's stability, Garner never saw McQueen as an enemy, only as a deeply troubled man fighting his own demons. The friction between them wasn't just about Hollywood roles, it was about identity. When Grand Prix landed in Garner's lap after McQueen walked away, it wasn't just a casting decision, it was a declaration. McQueen had dreamed of being the one to bring the thrill of racing to the big screen, but it was Garner who won the race, literally and figuratively. Trained by top-tier racers, Garner surprised everyone with his natural talent. He wasn't just an actor playing a driver, he became one. While other actors hesitated beyond 150 miles per hour, he thrived on the speed. McQueen, watching from the sidelines, could barely contain his frustration. That was supposed to be his moment. Determined to outdo Garner, McQueen poured himself into his own racing project, Le Mans. But instead of a triumph, it turned into an uncontrolled disaster. The film lacked structure, drained resources, and frustrated even the most seasoned professionals. By the time it hit theaters, critics shredded it apart, calling it lifeless. It was McQueen's greatest cinematic failure, one he never truly recovered from. Meanwhile, Grand Prix soared, winning Oscars, earning respect from racing legends, and proving that Garner had achieved what McQueen couldn't, bringing authenticity and storytelling together. Even years later, when McQueen was finally convinced to watch Grand Prix, he couldn't deny its brilliance. The bitter truth? Garner had won this round. But the competition wasn't just about films or fame. It was about how they handled the pressures of life itself. McQueen, once the highest-paid actor in Hollywood, spiraled into obscurity as the years went on. The reckless, rebellious attitude that once made him a superstar turned into his downfall. Alcohol, drugs, failed marriages. He lived on the edge until there was nowhere left to go. His first wife, Niley, later revealed the dark reality of their marriage, exposing the violent outbursts and control he exerted over her. Even his second marriage, to Ally McGraw, followed the same destructive path. No matter how much success he had, McQueen remained his own worst enemy. Then came the diagnosis. In 1979, McQueen's persistent cough turned out to be mesothelioma, an aggressive cancer with no cure. Believing asbestos exposure was to blame, he searched for a miracle cure, grasping at anything that might save him. He spent a fortune on alternative medicine, including bizarre treatments in Mexico that involved coffee enemas and injections of live animal cells. But it was too late. His final days were desperate, painful, and full of regret. In November 1980, after a failed operation in Juarez, his heart stopped. He was just 50 years old. A legend, yes, but one who burned too fast and too bright, leaving behind a legacy of both brilliance and tragedy. James Garner, on the other hand, aged with grace. While McQueen fought the world, Garner fought for what was right. He didn't just take on Hollywood's biggest studios, he won. When Warner Brothers tried to push him out of Maverick, he sued them and proved they were in the wrong. Later, When Universal attempted to hide profits from the Rockford Files, he took them to court again, forcing the industry to change how it treated its stars. Few actors dared to challenge the system, but life wasn't without its struggles. The years of performing his own stunts took a physical toll. By the late 1980s, he faced severe knee and back problems. Multiple surgeries followed, including a quintuple bypass. Then, in 2008, a massive stroke nearly ended his life. Even then, he remained the man people admired, humble, funny, and unwavering in his integrity. In 2010, he stepped away from acting for good, leaving behind a body of work that few could rival. Then, on July 19, 2014, at the age of 86, he passed away peacefully. No scandals, no tragic downfall, just a life well lived. In the end, Hollywood lost two legends, but their legacies couldn't be more different. McQueen was the rebel, the risk-taker who lived fast and left chaos in his wake. Garner was the steady force, the quiet hero who stood his ground without losing himself. One burned out, the other endured. And while their rivalry may have driven them both in different ways,